Waiting for you. Magic time. Affirmative observation. Affirmation 1 and 2. I repeat, negative observation. Negation. Waiting for you. Magic time. Affirmative observation. Affirmation 1 and 2. May I start?
Just a moment, please.
Okay. Okay. I will be starting my speech now. Negative observation, ace of point, decision rule 1. Japan has a low self-sufficiency rate in electricity. To prove this point, please check evidence number 1. Number 1. It's only 11.8%. 11.8%. 2. Electricity is foundation of our lives. If electricity stops, the impact is very serious. For example, medical tools, trains or companies will stop. 3. Therefore, it is necessary to have various types of power plants to avoid the risk of a blackout because there is no perfect power plant. All types of power plants have both merit and demerit. 4. Therefore, it is important to cover each demerit of power plant by each merit and consider the best energy composition. 5. Decision rule. As long as nuclear power plants have unique characteristics, you should vote for negative. Visa point, policy making. When we make a policy, we have to judge the certainness of such new technology, if whether such things can be achieved or not in the future. 2. That's because, like A, as long as electricity is foundation, careful consideration about dependence of such new technology is necessary. 3. If there is technological problem under status quo, we should not depend on such unclear way. Moving on to negation. Negation. Ace of point. Uniqueness of MPP. 1. The balance between electric supply and demand is important because if once this balance collapses, it will lead to a blackout. Please check evidence number 2. Number 2. NPPs contribute to keep this balance by 3 characteristics. Judges, I'd appreciate it if you could nod if you see the evidence. Thank you. 3. First characteristic is unlike renewable energy, MPP doesn't get affected by weather. 4. Second one is if exporting country of uranium is diversified. Please check negative evidence number 3. Number 3. Third one is uranium is easy to stock. Even if importing of uranium is stopped, NPP can provide energy for 2 years. Please check evidence number 4. Number 4. By doing this, we can prepare for emergency situations. Thank you. Visa point, problem of dependence on thermal power plant, so-called TPP. 1. TPP has a similar characteristic to MPPs. Before the Fukushima accident, TPP and NPP were 2 major ways of power generation. Please check evidence number 5. Number 5, underlined sentences. Underlined sentences. These sentences talk about energy composition before the Fukushima accident. Thank you. 2. However, after Fukushima accident, most of MPPs were stopped and TPP have become single major power generation. Now TPP covers about 80% of Japanese electricity. Please check evidence number 5. Number 5, again, yellow highlighted sentences. Yellow highlighted sentences. This is because renewable energy cannot replace NPP's characteristic. 3. By dependence on TPP, risk of blackout cannot be diversified. We show 2 problems. 4. Problem 1. There is a risk of importing fuel. Please check evidence number 7. Underline sentences, underline sentences. Thank you. Problem 2. About 50 years later, fuel will dry up. Please check evidence number 8. Number 8. After that, moving on to waiting for you. Flow, waiting for you. Thank you. 1. Waiting for you. 1. Maybe their affirmative paradigm is based on renewable energy shift. Otherwise, they lose electricity, the essential factor of any activities. However, it's really unclear how Japan can actually shift to other energies. Therefore, what we should do is just examine the situation. As long as clear way to supply energy is unclear, we should wait. Moving on to flow, magic time. Magic time. One, NAFA rule ban new speech in 1 AR. NAFA rule ban new speech in 1 AR. After that, affirmative observation. Affirmative observation. On the ACEP point, they talked about how the attack the country, the economic deterrence power will not function or something. However, it is obvious and clear that the Russian economy has been deteriorating, right? All these famous companies like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Accenture, all these companies are stepping out of Russia, right? And in that sense, the economic power which leads to the national defense, which is the financial power, is deeply affected. Moving on to the diplomacy. Here, they mentioned the, actually moving on to, affirmation one. Here, they talked about how, but just by having NPP, Japan will be vulnerable to attack or to a nuclear attack, specifically on Japan or something. However, we have to consider the fact that other countries all over the world, right, like Europe, Asia, all these countries in various regions all have NPPs, right? And they all have various types of NPPs. The affirmative side has to make a clear stance on to what extent that Japanese government's NPP is unique compared to that NPPs. In that sense, why Japan's more vulnerable than other countries, the NPP types, right? And also, actually, if you could card check evidence number 4. Here, affirmative evidence number 4. They said that Russia is attacking Ukraine because of dirty bomb or something. And they said that on the affirmative observation, they said that that the world politics won't affect them or something. But however, you can check here that they're extremely criticized, right here. So obviously there is a damage to Russia. In that sense, the criticism all over the world is affecting Russia in that sense, right? And also, visa point, they said that if the infrastructure will be attacked, thank you.
May I ask?
Yes.
Firstly, as for the affirmative observation,
Yes.
your dictation is that the economic strength also needs the national defense or something.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Economic strength is also needed for the national defense or something. What is the first dictation on the affirmative observation?
That actually Russia is economically being affected by various regions, and that economic power in that sense is obviously one of the powers of the world, right? Power is upon national power, right? So.
Yes. So, what do you want to say that the economic strength is also needed for the national defense?
Yes.
Just a simple. Okay. So
yes.
why? Simply why? That's because the agent that protects the country is the Japan. For example, Japanese So Japanese army, so-called the 自衛隊 or something.
Mhm.
Why the economic situation simply leads up?
Because that leads to the profit of the country, and if Japan has enough profit, right, as in GDPs or shown in data, right, Japan will be a country. With,
Okay. So the GDP can cause a national defense. If so,
no, GDP is just one of the. one of the
If so, that under status quo, there are some countries which has a relatively low GDP or low economic rate.
Yeah.
Such country are attacked under status quo.
Under status quo. Not
So
specifically.
if so, why you can say so?
Simply because, as far as I know, not all the countries with low GDP
Okay.
are being attacked.
Okay.
It's not like all the African countries
Okay,
are
I
being
check
involved in
later.
war, right?
Okay, I check later. Then, as for the affirmation one, you mentioned about two refutation.
Mhm.
First refutation is that other country also have the NPP or something.
Yes.
But why this can be the reason to negate the resolution? That
Simply, yes. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Please.
Simply because you said that Japan will be attacked because they have NPPs, but almost all the countries that are vulnerable to attack or are in complex diplomatic situations like Russia, right? Like China.
Okay.
They all have NPPs.
Okay. So even after plan, even though we decommission the NPP in Japan, that's not enough or something. What do you want to say?
Actually, in that sense, I think it will actually lead to like a turnaround there because Japan will lose that that energetic supply way, right? If we decommission, and they will be vulnerable to attacks.
If we decommission the NPP, why the energy getting chance will decrease? That's because under status quo, both Japan and other countries have the NPP, right?
Yeah.
And then even under status quo, such country may attacked, and then we cannot get to the energy source, right? If so, what is the difference between status quo and after plan? Or uniquely in the after plan, this turnaround situation will occur.
What is your point?
So please, what I want to know the reason why uniquely after plan this turnaround situation will occur.
Turnaround situation because Japan MPP, as you mentioned, is a power source, and in that sense, it's one of the standards of having NPP is one of the status as a country, right? Because unless the country has a certain economic power, MPP, you can't have an NPP. But if we decommission MPP, right, we're going to be losing a power.
If we decommission the NPP, does other country try to attack to Japan or something?
Yeah, in that sense, yeah. I mean, it could link to it, definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.